Right, well, beside me I have what looks like the most appropriate auto jumble table in the world. Alas, it is not. It is my collection of parts. Now, I've been a little bit stuck for time recently, work's been really busy, I've been on holiday, blah blah blah. So, the tank, I haven't got enough filmed to make a full episode out of it. I thought today, I don't want to leave you guys hanging, I wanted to make a small video that was kind of a little bit informative and tells you a little bit more about the parts that I've got. I've managed to pick up a new part recently and I've been making a couple of parts as well behind the scenes. So I thought it would be good if I brought you all up to date with that. I've learned quite a bit about dates and differences between the various parts I have and why they're good. So I thought today we should go through all of that lot. This is one for the nerds, this is for the people who care about dates and tiny little differences and things like that. But this is also useful for people who want to see some of the stuff that I've been doing behind the scenes, the stuff I haven't been filming, I've been ticking away and making ready so that when the time comes we can put it all together. Now, the 20s was a time of a lot of experimentation, I've said that before, but also a lot of evolution. So they might try something for a year, it didn't work, or they thought they could do a better one. The next year it's changed. So if you can actually pinpoint these little differences that the parts had, you can actually come up with fairly accurate years. And so, yeah, what I've got is a mixture of parts. It is not all 25, and in fact, some of it I've found is even earlier. So, I'm not going to bore you too much with info about the tanks because obviously I've been working on these quite a lot and you already know a fair bit about them, but what I will tell you is that after speaking to Rick, there were in fact a few models where they did not have this top and side piece as one unit. You remember how I bent these over and made both sides and the top out of one piece? Well, there was in fact a couple of models where they were all individual. So if we had gone that route, it wouldn't have been inaccurate by any means. So that's been quite interesting to me. But the other thing is, making this tank, so far all we've done is steel work. But in the background, I have actually been making up some filler caps. Now, on 20s motorcycles, there's a smorgasbord of different kinds of caps. And so that gives me a lot of option for what I might want to do. Now, the original BSA ones actually solder in from the inside of the tank. Now, I could see that repairing something like that in the future might be a little bit tricky. So I basically pulled some ideas from different fuel caps and have been making up my own on the lathe. Rick has been accompanying me with that and kind of guiding me because his machining skills are far superior to mine.
Otherwise it might reflect off of that rock.
So what I've got so far is two of these, and that is just a filler cap. They will solder in from the top like so. And this one here, I've actually got a borrowed cap for the filler neck. I will be making up one of these at some point, but it's taken me a long time to kind of get anywhere making these. So just putting them in is really cool. It kind of gives you a feel of how the tank is going to come out, and I'm pretty pleased with how it's looking so far. So we've already done a little bit of work to our fork legs, and I've told you a little bit about them, and that was that I believe they were 1925 because they had this brace here, which previous years didn't have. What I didn't realise is early 26 had those as well. So these could in fact be 25 or 26. I don't really know, it doesn't really matter, but it's quite interesting. But something that is fresh info to us all is this stem. What I didn't realise is that after 1924 they started putting dampers on these forks, and that came in the way of this flared portion here being even more flared out to sort of a circumference like that, and I believe they put some sort of cork washer in there or something like that, but that puts these right at 1924, so slightly earlier than I thought. I thought most of the stuff was mostly 24, 25, but as you will see as we move on down the table, that is not quite the case. Moving on to the frame. Now, we haven't talked much about this frame, but I have found some little things. So I did do a little bit of cleaning up where the frame number would be, and I managed to find some digits. There is not a complete frame number there. What I have got is a prefix and a few numbers. Now, the prefix is important because that actually allows us to give a rough dating on the frame. So this portion up here is where you would have stamped for the frame number, and you can see it begins with a D. So what does the D mean? Well, the D basically puts us right back to 1923, could be 24. So we're talking a very long time ago indeed, and it is pretty cool that in fact what we've got is older than I even thought in the first place. So that's been a useful bit of information. I'm pretty pleased about that. More talk about the frame, because this frame is not a one-piece frame, as you can see. So the parts that are responsible for making up the rear section of the frame are these. This basically will make your rear triangle in a form kind of like that. That's not right, but you get the idea. Now, what's been interesting to me is I found out these are 1928, which is a good thing. So we're talking a few years later than the rest of the stuff we got on the table. But why does this make my life easier? Well, by the time they got to kind of late 1925, 26, they decided they wanted to go to the drum brake. And in doing so, they widened that rear section of the frame. Now, before the drum brake, what they would have had is a rim brake. And that is basically, if you imagine a smaller rim running on the side of your spokes in the middle of your wheel, and a little wood block would press against it. I don't want to go that route. I would like to put a nice drum brake on there. And so having these later frame parts actually gives us way more scope for what hub we can put on there. Now, the chances of finding an original hub are pretty slim, but just having that extra width gives us a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm very pleased to hear that indeed. That is going to make life easier when we get this thing rolling. And now for two parts that you guys definitely haven't seen. Now, I said at the beginning of this project, I can't really see much turning up, but there might be the odd bits and bobs. Now, what I have come across is a toolkit, which is absolutely fabulous because where it fits into the frame, it does kind of look good empty, but I'd like to have something there. And let's face it, I'm going to want to be carrying my tools. I did not expect an original toolkit to be turning up. Very nice indeed. And it has actually got some original paint left on it. This is really, really cool because this is going to fit onto the back of the frame like that. Looks pretty smart to me. Now, there are a few changes with these over the years. They changed the locking mechanism, and obviously this one is going to need repair, but this is going to save me a huge amount of time instead of making one from scratch. What's funny about this is that now this would be worth, I don't know, a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit. But at some point it was worth absolutely nothing because someone needed a little bit of scrap metal and they decided to just cut it right out of the back, bang in the middle. So that's going to need to be repaired at some point, and I'm not sure how to do it really because I could make it look brand new again, but I think it might be nice to do kind of a period repair. Maybe we could solder a patch over the top or something like that. So I'm dead chuffed that that's turned up, really I am. That is going to be a cool little piece. And finally, onto something else you guys have not seen. This is another thing I've been working on in the background. I haven't done a video about it because it is time consuming and quite frankly, it's boring. It's just me hitting metal over and over and over and over again. In fact, it's more boring than listening to which year each part came from. So this here is a seat pan I've been making up. Now I have got one to copy. I've got no idea whether it's from a bike, whether it's agricultural. All I know is that it's from around the 20s. So this is something I've been making myself and hand forming on a sandbag with a hammer. So this is actually a 2-piece seat, which is how the one I'm copying is done. You can see right there, this front portion is done separately to the rear portion. So we've still got quite a way to go on that, to be honest, but I will probably pick up a video on completing this, because now that this portion is done, it can be less boring, hopefully. So I think it's going to look smart. This will eventually have a felt layer on top, felt instead of foam, that's what they used back then, and then some sort of leather cover as well, which could be interesting because I'm not that smart at leather work. So that is about all I have for you today. I know for some of you guys this can be really boring because I've not actually done anything, but for others of you, you might well be really interested in this, and I hope you are, because I am, and it's nice to be a motorcycle nerd, isn't it? I think. Well, thank you guys very much for watching, and I cannot wait to pick up on the tank build, get that episode out there for you guys to see, because it's going to be exciting. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next episode.